One day I'm gonna be everything I wanna be. I don't let it get the most of me. One day I'm gonna be free. I wanna be everything I'm gonna be. My future right in front of me. One day I'm gonna be free. I wanna be free. Then let me be.
From the depths of darkness, a voice emerges. A host with a fire burning in his soul. With a heart, steel, and a spirit unbroken. He rides on two wheels, ready to claim his throne. Amidst the chaos and the thunderous roar, insane wheels rise as a force to be reckoned with. Fueled by the power that only metal can bestow, he takes his stand, refusing to submit. Insane wheels hear his battle cry. Metal and mayhem will never die. Rituals report and paves his way. Oh, legend in the making, day by day.
Holy shit, ladies and gentlemen, we have so much shit going on in the media. Let's go ahead and get right into this. Great to see all you legends, man. So we got a lot of shit going on here since we last saw each other on Saturday. A lot of shit has happened. Surprising. Surprise, surprise. So anyways, the way that I have this labeled is Trump and Iran updates, DOJ investigates Jerome Powell. That's going to be a very interesting thing, the Fed chair, as well as Iran protests and ICE latest and top stories. So that's the way that we have this, lined up or titled. Let me go ahead and actually show you the lineup or tell you. We're going to start off with Iran protests that started, obviously it started, 14, 15, 16 days ago at this point. But we're going to basically pick up from yesterday and the media that's led us up into today. So, anyways, we're going to talk about some Iran protests, death sentence for demonstrators, Supreme Leader says, and this came out yesterday. And then we have breaking U.S. airstrike on ISIS in Syria.
Oh shit! Oh shit!
Fucking crazy. I actually didn't know that happened until this morning. I did hear some talks about ISIS and all that stuff, but the actual strikes hitting them again in Syria, because we did talk about the one time they did it, not that super long ago, but then they did it again. So then we have Minneapolis ICE protests, demonstrators clash with ICE. We obviously know that is happening and will continue to happen. We have Greenland leaders reject Trump's push for U.S. control. Of course, I think that's something that if you guys are on social media, YouTube, any of that stuff, you guys probably have heard a little bit about the ongoings and the drama of Greenland. And then we have Iran protests, 500 dead as death toll likely to rise, and it already has risen a huge amount. I think it's like at 560 some odd at this point. ICE protests, Minneapolis police chief talks arrests, and then White House latest, Venezuela, Cuba, Trump economic speech, and Smithsonian portrait gallery, which I don't even care about the Smithsonian portrait gallery, but whatever, that's one of the things that they were talking about in there. Then a very interesting development that happened yesterday as well. A U-Haul truck drives into Iranian demonstrators or demonstration in Los Angeles. And I did see that, and it was a wild scene, and it got caught on the helicopter. So, of course, we're going to show you guys all that as well. Anti-government protests continue across Iran. And, yes, that is something we are watching closely. We're watching a internal regime change happen, essentially. A revolution, if you will. DOJ opens investigation into Fed Chair Jerome Powell.
Bruh.
Yeah, that's a big one. I'm not really sure what the accusation is yet. We're going to find that out together, obviously. And then we have Atlanta protests grow after deadly Minneapolis ICE shooting, and this just came out an hour ago. I mean, there's a lot of protests that are still going on. It's kind of almost to the extent that I would put George Floyd on. We're kind of seeing the same level of craziness. We're right there. And then our last story for the morning will be thousands of NYC nurses on strike today. So a lot going on in the media, bro. A lot of shit going on. So before we get all into it, man, let's go ahead and just get the call to actions over with so we can get right into it. Make sure you guys come in and hit that like button. It helps out the show immensely, and it's free to do so. If you guys are brand new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. This is what we do Monday through Friday, man. Reporting world news, geopolitics, American news, American politics, all of that Monday through Friday, man. 10 a.m. for an hour. It's a great time, man. CST, by the way. Let me go ahead and get the money part over, though. Please consider becoming a member, starting only at $3.99 a month. We're making sure we're not breaking the bank out there with anybody, but check it out. This is what allows us to have these lights on as well as be on these airwaves. So thank you, members, for becoming members and staying members. Little side note, follow my Instagram at BallValveTV, where I post everything behind the scenes of not only my life, but as well as the show, Millennial Food Time, breaking news, the campaign trail. It's a great way to get a hold of me one-on-one. And we also have a legendary freaking Instagram, Discord server for all of you guys. And that's where the majority of the family is. We've got, like, I swear, like 95 to 98% of you guys in the IWF in there. But I want to make sure that we get it 100%. So make sure you guys join up on that. We have a link in the description down below of any live video that we do, and one of the moderators will probably drop you a Discord link as well. Last but not least, all super chats, super stickers, gifted memberships, and membership signups are of course all going to be presented live and shouted out onto the show. But if you guys would like to skip that YouTube 30% brutal cut that they take from your hard-earned cash, we have these platforms right here that you guys can donate to, and of course I'll read them out loud just like I'm getting a super chat. And I've got my email up, so if anything comes through, we'll be reading it right away. All right, you legends, always appreciate you guys. Real quick, Sterling Wheel coming in and dropping it like it's hot in the very beginning to start it off. I very much appreciate that. Gifting out a membership, not only helping me, but helping someone in the Insane Wheels family, man. I very much appreciate that. We got Jimmy Mac as well as SNS. We got Carney's Ride. Good morning. We got Charles Darwin from Down Under. We got Glare, my man. Good morning to you as well. We're scrolling our way down. We got Naomi in the building. Good morning to you. Scrolling my way down, sorry. We got Alfred Patterson. Good morning. Great to see you as well. We got Dwayne Martin. Yes, sir. Jimmy Mac as well. We got Rabbit of Chaos. Lappy as well. Good morning. We got Virginia Chaos. Great to see you in the building as well. Motobomb. And welcome back, fellas. We got Dylan Patterson saying morning. Appreciate that. We got Sterling as well saying good morning. And we're scrolling down. We got Shadow. My man, good morning to you. How do you say that? What's up, Pocho? I'm just gonna call you Pocho, homie. Appreciate that. Great to see you in the chat. Yes, the leg is great, by the way. The leg is feeling ultra good. We got Mark in the building as well. Good morning to you. Great to see you. We got Pop-Up D. And also, I want to give a special shout out to Sick Bastard and his crew, man. I very much appreciate the duct tape community coming together and raiding us over here. There's my man right there. There's my man right there. I'm scrolling on my way down as fast as possible. Go pump some oil. Shit. Yeah, no kidding. We got Sterling Will gifting out another membership.
Stop the cap.
Shit. Thank you, bro. I very much appreciate that. We got Edge as well. Good morning and great to see you back in the chat. Welcome back. We got Steve Easy gifting out a membership as well. Let's fucking go, guys. I thank you guys very much for that. Let's get a mini membership drive going. I agree. Shit. All right, we're going to get right into this, though. We got so much to get through. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 stories. And they're all somewhat long. There's a couple of short ones. So we have a lot on our plate this morning, so we got to get right to it. So if I missed your name or any of that, I truly apologize.
Right now, I
try my best.
A big story that we are following at this hour. Take a look. The latest on the protests in Iran that are now nearing 2 weeks. Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei has signaled a major crackdown is coming, despite serious warnings from...
What's up, Mountain Woman? Great to see you in the chat.
President Trump. Iran's Attorney General warning today that anyone taking part in protests will be considered a, quote, enemy of God, which is punishable by death.
Appreciate that, Corrupted.
Even those
much love and
who,
respect,
quote,
bro.
Rioters could be sentenced to death as well. Right now, we know the regime has shut down internet in the country and cut off phone lines for folks living there. President Trump has put the Iranian regime on notice, repeatedly saying that the U.S. could intervene and strike Iran if protesters continue to be killed.
They've started shooting the hell out of people, and all of a sudden people without any weapons whatsoever are standing there and you have machine guns gunning them down, or they take them to prisons and then hang them and kill them. So they played rough, and I said, if they do that, we're going to hit them very hard. Well, we're going to hit them hard. We're ready to do it. If they do that, we're going to hit them hard. And so far, for the most part, there's been some of it, but for the most part, they haven't.
And you were looking at some of the video there. Now, we do have that statement that came in from Iran's Attorney General.
Well, Trump ain't fucking around. Trump can't do it. Trump can't do it. He legally can't do it. He can do whatever the fuck he wants. I mean, that's really, at the end of the day, it comes down to force, you know. Can he do something? Maybe, maybe not. But, like, the aspect of legalities, sure. But when it comes down to, well, force trumps everything.
This is just a portion of it, but it does say translated. Prosecutors must carefully and without delay
up there in Canada?
issuing indictments, prepare the grounds for the trial and decisive confrontation with those who, by betraying the nation and creating insecurity, seek foreign domination over the country. Proceedings must be conducted without leniency, compassion, or indulgence. Now, we did see Secretary of State for the U.S. Marco Rubio post simply this on social media today, quote, "The United States supports the brave people of Iran." And the State Department itself posting on X saying, do not play games with President Trump. When he says he'll do something, he means it.
I think everyone kind of knows that he's not going to just throw an empty threat out there without absolutely willing to go through with it. Now, I think it's better to be able to, you know, use threats and not actually use them and get what you want still, you know, and sometimes that does happen too.
Again, a look at some of the video here coming in out of Iran at this hour.
What's up, Wally? Good morning.
Protests that do continue. The U.S.
And yes, right now, Wally, it's about 560 or some odd. But the death toll is definitely rising. We actually have an update on this exact thing, but we had to start from yesterday to chronologically get us up to point where we are right this second. So this is as of yesterday, by the way. And then we have the update of the 500 plus that have been killed.
Human rights activist news agency reporting that at least 65 people have been killed during the demonstrations, with more than 2,300 others detained. The Supreme Leader stating Trump is at least partially to blame for these protests. There is so much to discuss here, as always, so I do want to bring in Jonathan Salye, a research analyst at the Foundation for Defense.
Well, I really don't care about no research analyst. I'm going to be honest. I really don't care. We have so much to get to. And that's the first of 12 stories right there. And we have an update on the whole situation anyways. We don't need to hear some analyst talk because I'm the analyst, motherfucker. Shit, feels ultra good. We got Rob Myers in the building. Shout out to my man. Good morning to you. Great to see you in the chat. All right, we're gonna move on though. We're gonna move into another breaking story that happened yesterday as well, by the way. U.S. airstrikes on ISIS in Syria happened yesterday. Let's go ahead and bring it up and talk about it.
Some breaking news that is just now coming into.
And this is a very, very quick update, by the way.
Well, this was just coming to our attention from Fox's Lucas Tomlinson. I want to put this up on your screen. This is what he's put out on X. It's broke in the last few minutes. It says that the U.S. military.
Yeah, that's some bullshit, Chen with Stacks. I agree. We got over 100 people in here. We got only 22 likes. Make sure you guys hit that like button as well as double tap that screen if you're on the vertical side. I very much appreciate your laborious work.
Terry has now launched airstrikes against the Islamic State in Syria. Officials say this is the second time that the U.S. military has launched airstrikes against ISIS in Syria since December 19th. This is to avenge the killing of 2 Iowa National Guard soldiers and their American interpreter by a lone ISIS gunman. And then, of course, he's also tagging there, the person with the first news of these strikes. This has been something that we've been paying very close attention to as we were watching as that happened and that breaking news first came into our newsroom back in December with the death of those 2 Iowa National Guard soldiers. But we did get some updates here just yesterday, according to our partners at Reuters. And so what we now know is that the Syrian army said that it would push into the latest Kurdish-held district of the Aleppo city yesterday. This after Kurdish groups there rejected a government demand for their fighters to withdraw under a ceasefire deal. And so the violence in Aleppo has brought into focus one of the main fault lines in Syria. This as the country...
Shit, real quick before she continues, we got a couple of legends that just came through. We got Brother Lee Lance. Appreciate my man. Good morning to you. Great to see you in the chat. We got Bob up there from Biker News Canada in Canada saying, morning, Mike, and all the cool people in the chat. Yes, sir. Great to see you. A sick bastard cheering me on, or cheers. And then we got Wally cheering me on. Hell yeah, let's go, Bo. We're getting down with our bad selves.
She tries to rebuild after the devastating war with Kurdish
Josh Phillips?
officials and forces
Great to see you,
resisting
bro.
efforts by the president's Islamist-led government to bring their fighters under a centralized authority. And so once again, we're hitting this latest information, though. Hear from Lucas Tomlinson saying that the U.S. has now decided to launch airstrikes against the Islamic State there in Syria, with those officials making this announcement, saying that this is the second time the U.S. military has launched airstrikes against ISIS in Syria since December 19th. And so ultimately, we do also know that as far as the
What's up? We got Extra Surprise and Motobomb. There's Motobomb right here. Great to see you, bro. Good morning. Sorry I missed you.
Outside influence, France's foreign ministry said that it is working with the United States to help try to de-escalate the situation there in Syria. A ministry statement said that President Emmanuel Macron of France had urged the president there in Syria yesterday to...
Man, we have a lot of shit going on around the world, don't we? What's up, Agrillipus? Good morning to you. Great to see you. And we got Steve Posey as well. Shit. Yeah, that's right. Josh knows the deal.
Exercise restraint and reiterated France's commitment to a united Syria where all segments of Syrian society are
Damn, we got Sterling Wheel coming in with the $2.10 saying half a joint. Yes, sir. We're doing that right now. We usually smoke half a joint, or left-handed tobacco, and then we do another half. Yeah, so it feels good. I appreciate that. It goes a long way, bro.
Represented and protected. But again, this is the breaker. We want to continue to keep our eyes on this. If any other details come out, we'll make sure to bring that to you here on Live Now.
And of course, that's exactly what my job is. Fuck them. You know what I mean? No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, of course, any of the stories that we present, we always do our absolute damnness to follow them to the end. So make sure you guys stick around for that. All right, we're going to move on, though. Minneapolis ICE protests. Demonstrators clash with ICE. I think that we already know this. I'm already sick and tired of these ICE protests, going to be really honest. So I'm not going to go ahead and, play nonstop video of these guys protesting because, honestly, I don't really care, But we will, since it's in the media, we will cover it. But we don't need to go ahead and nonstop talk about it.
As Renee Good was shot and killed by an ICE officer. Now, we've seen the video that shows the ICE officer's vantage point. There is a lot to this as the investigation does continue. What I want to do right now is pop up this video from on the ground. Now, it was shot by Brecca Stahl.
I agree, Charles.
At the Daily Wire. Again, you can see everything as it was playing out, and this is just one of the videos she shot that shows really the intensity there, as you can see tense moments and a lot of people gathered. Now, I do want to bring Brecca in to talk much more about the situation on the ground there. Brecca, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today.
No, great to be with you.
And I did want to ask you here what we were looking at in that video.
Man, she's a pretty girl to look at.
It's kind of playing in slow motion there, but you could see a lot of folks that were gathered around what looked to be maybe a law enforcement vehicle.
Yes, so that is at the ICE field office in Minneapolis, and that has been one of the prime gathering spots. We've had that spot and the memorial where people and protesters are going in and out. The ICE one, the protesters are more angry. They are harassing these officers, yelling profanity at them over and over. Let's remember, these officers had nothing to do, no relation to that individual. So these are people taking out their anger on people not even at the scene.
Right. Now they're not just protesting the woman. Now they're protesting ICE at back to usual. I mean, that's what they've been doing for months.
Of Renee Good's shooting. But that's what we've been seeing.
And I wanted to ask you what it's like to kind of be on the ground there as all of this is happening, because it's been a situation where we actually received a bit earlier on today a list from Mayor Jacob Frey that kind of details some of the damage that has happened there as a result of these protests. So break down for me what it's like to actually be there on the ground as all of this is happening.
So it's been a full 4 days so far. It started on Wednesday. Last night was definitely an escalation point that was outside of the Canopy Hotel. We saw protesters surrounding a police car, punching a police car, shouting at the officer. And it just escalated there. Today, now, a protest is about to start. It's scheduled at 1 p.m. Central Time. So we have people going ahead in that direction. You notice these protests are starting later. So we think what we'll see tonight is it's going to be more aggressive.
What's up, Tiffany? Good morning. Great to see you.
Just like what we saw last night. And then the main thing that I've noticed on the ground as I've had time to reflect over the 4 days is just the difference between the way that this movement breathes. So I was just at AmFest with the Daily Wire covering that, and you see turning point, and you remember Erica Kirk forgiving the man who set out to kill her husband that day. And I have heard no empathy for that police or for the ICE officer. I've heard no empathy for any of these ICE officers.
Not out there. You're not going to find very much empathy on the streets of Minneapolis right now. for that ICE agent. That's not going to happen. So that was day 4 of the protest yesterday. Now we're on day 5, if it continues today, which it already is. We see stuff happening already in Atlanta, Georgia. We're seeing it actually across a lot of these different cities right now across the nation at the moment. But it's definitely an interesting ordeal happening. We're going to follow the developments of it, but we're not going to focus on it, like I said, because I'd rather not. We have a lot of actual important shit to get to. One of them being Greenland leaders reject Trump's push for U.S. control. Let's go in and talk about this, and let's go ahead and bring up the volume. Here we go.
Welcome back into Live Now from Fox, where we are continuing to track some of the major breaking news stories from over this weekend. Do want to bring us out to this live image that we have at the White House over in Washington, D.C., as we track everything having to do with President Trump and also his prospects.
What's up, Bill Castle over there in the state of Washington? Great to see you, bro.
And pushes for U.S. control of Greenland. The Associated Press saying this, that Greenland's party leaders have rejected President Trump's repeated calls for the U.S. to take control of the island, saying that Greenland's future must be decided by its people. I also have this, a social media post from Fox News. It says, not for sale. Greenland's leaders rejected Trump's push for U.S. control, declaring, quote, we don't want to be Americans. We don't want to be Danes.
Yeah, well, it doesn't fit their narrative, Steve Posey. They're not doing it for the righteousness of a person. They're doing it for the righteousness of their movement and their narrative. That's what they're doing it for.
We want to be Greenlanders. Joining us now to discuss this even further is John Hardy. He is with the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies. John, good to have you on.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. Let's get a full breakdown here for our viewers.
What's up, brother TV team? My man, good morning. Great to see you in the chat, and happy Monday morning.
So why is there a push from President Trump to gain control of the island of Greenland?
Well, Greenland is important to U.S. national security in a variety of ways. We have an important...
Can we get this guy like an actual microphone, please? Why is he like just talking off of his webcam, off of his laptop? Bro, get it together.
Space Force base there, which is used for early missile warning.
This isn't my live stream that he's going and appearing on. He's going on national, well, actually it'd be considered international to an extent, but international fucking mainstream media. Get a microphone, bro.
Space surveillance. Greenland is also strategically positioned in the Arctic, a region of growing significance to U.S. security. There are also kind of critical mineral resources in Greenland, although they'd be very costly and kind of hard to get out of the ground.
I also want to ask you this. Has this been the first time that we've heard of a U.S. president wanting to gain control of Greenland, or is this something and an idea that has been floated in the past?
No, President Trump also raised this during his first term, albeit less aggressively, and again then was rebuffed by the Danes.
Want to show?
Oh man, I would have to say Mexico.
Case this, just some overview
Just
of
gonna
Greenland
have
here,
to.
just so our viewers can get a sense of what the territory looks like right now, what the country looks like at the moment. President Trump has been saying repeatedly that the U.S. must get control of Greenland and taking over Greenland there because he does not want Russia or China to be doing that. John, is there any indication that Russia or China is having this idea to also take over Greenland?
Not we go that far. They're not going to
What's up, brother Todd J?
take over the territory there. I think what President Trump is referring
What are you talking about? You don't think that he's gonna go in there and just take occupation at one point?
to is increased Russian naval activity near the Greenland landmass, especially with its submarines, which are fairly capable. The Chinese have also attempted to make various investments in things like airports, former naval bases. There's plans for like a satellite ground station there. Many of those Chinese efforts have not come to fruition, in part because of pushback from countries in NATO, including the United States. I think that the bottom line is, while Greenland is very important to U.S. security, we do not need to take over the country there to kind of secure those interests. We have a 1951 defense agreement with Denmark that we have and can continue to use to kind of satisfy our security needs there. And I think if President Trump went to our counterparts and said, "Hey, we need to increase our military presence there," they would be very, I think, welcoming and kind of ready to work with us.
Kind of going off of that last point, and I'm glad you brought that up, because a lot of the pushback, and there has been pushback, not just from Greenlanders, but the wider globe, and also from some of the president's constituents here back home in the U.S., is that the U.S. does not have to take over Greenland. They can just station more U.S. troops there. They are part of NATO. So is the U.S. Can you break down a little bit for our viewers what has been the recent activity of U.S. troops in Greenland? How has it changed since President Trump has come back into the Oval Office?
Well, during the Cold War, we had a really massive military presence there. It's shrunk now down to maybe a few hundred soldiers. Again, we have that important Space Force base used for early warning and kind of space surveillance. But like I said, if President Trump wanted to add more facilities there, wanted to increase the total number of troops, he could use that 1951 agreement, and I think he would find willing cooperation.
And kind of going back to some more of this reaction that we have had from several NATO members, who some of them have expressed concern over these latest comments from President Trump. What are they saying exactly? Which countries are pushing back the most, and who is really backing Greenland within this entire situation?
Well, that would be Denmark. But real quick, I want to show you guys a little something that I have here. So people are like, well, why are they, going after Greenland like this, blah, blah, blah. Well, let me go ahead and just show you, aside from a resource standpoint, because resources, of course, are always going to be considered. Now, obviously, the red here that you see is Greenland. And when you see it on the map, you see it like this. But when you have it on the globe aspect, on the actual globe, you can see because it's way up there, right? The United States and Canada is right over here. Greenland is right here, dead center, and then you've got Russia right here. So on a globe standpoint, it is a national security buffer for the United States, big time, on a actual security military level, right? And that is a very important buffer to have in between Russia, right? So I just wanted to point that out and show you guys on a map to give you guys a little bit more of an idea, like, hey, this is actually, not only for resources, of course, the resources that are there is extremely rich, and that's absolutely, Trump is going to take advantage of all of that, no doubt. But the main reason is that national security aspect.
The Denmark is reacting most strongly. I think that all European countries, all NATO countries for that matter, are concerned by the...
What's up, SST? Good morning. Great to see you.
The rhetoric coming out of the White House, especially the frankly absurd notion that the United States could use military force to take over Greenland. It just really shakes.
Jimmy Mac, look how cold it is there, homie. It's got to be indoor grow only.
Faith in the U.S. commitment to the alliance and the U.S. Reliability as a security partner. And I think European countries see it as a kind of a reprisal of 19th century gunboat diplomacy, where the U.S. just kind of comes in and shakes its fist and demands what it wants. When, in fact, as I said, those security objectives could be achieved through more quiet, traditional diplomacy.
I know a lot of it is just, theorizing of what would come next. We only have the president's, comments to go off at this moment. Nothing really set in stone, nothing too official, just a lot of talk at this moment. When we look at NATO and what it is today, John, what would that look like, let's say, if the U.S. went forward with some of these
Interesting, TVT. I'm going to have to be on the lookout for that tomorrow morning.
Comments that the president has been saying about taking over Greenland for those national security issues. How would that change NATO as we know it?
Well, if the United States military were to invade Greenland, which I do not think is going to happen, that could very well be the end of NATO. I mean, it's just pretty unthinkable to imagine the United States military using force against a NATO ally, a long-standing one, actually Denmark in Afghanistan, which again was the only time the Alliance has ever invoked.
We have a military base. We don't have much control over Greenland because, as you know, it's under the authority of Denmark, and Denmark puts a lot of restrictions on what even Greenland can do. So, I mean, listen, if you want to sit here and try to fact check me, bruh, you might want to actually have a better argument or some shit that I don't already know.
Article 5, the commitment to collective defense. Denmark, per capita, took the most casualties there. So I think all this rhetoric is just really hurtful and disrespectful to allies that have bled for the United States.
John, before I let you go, is there anything else that you feel that you have to add in order to give some more context to our viewers? This conversation is not something that's going to go away. We're going to continue to... Real
quick, we got Tiffany Lance coming in on the Venmo saying dues for Lee and I. Yes. Dues are paid, Tiffany and Lee. I very much appreciate that. All right, we're about to move on, though. We have a lot. We have to get back into Iran. Iran protests, 500 dead as death toll likely to rise. And yes, they were already reporting well into the 500s. And then here's a little update on them.
The latest now on the protests in Iran. Iran's parliament speaker warning today that the U.S. military and Israel would be, quote, legitimate targets if America strikes Iran over the ongoing protests. The threats against the U.S. and Israel were made during a parliament session as Iranian lawmakers shouted, quote, death to America. Now, this is some of the video of those protests.
What's up, Brother Slim? Good morning.
That for the last 2 weeks have taken over the capital of Tehran, including earlier today, as well as Iran's second largest city and others within the nation. Officials within the Iranian regime have said that demonstrators and others helping them could be sentenced to death. President Trump has been very clear that if protesters continue to be killed, the U.S. will have no choice but to intervene.
So Iran's in big trouble?
Now, this right here was on Friday, right here, I think.
To me, that the people are
Yes,
taking
it was.
over certain cities that nobody thought were really possible just a few weeks ago. We're watching the situation very carefully. I've made the statement very strongly that if they start killing people like they have in the past, we will get involved. We'll be hitting them very hard where it hurts.
And again, this is just some of that video from the streets there in Iran over the past several days and really 2 weeks. Now, in response to the protests, the Iranian regime has cut all access to internet and phone lines. And take a look at this. Lucas Tomlinson over at Fox News saying, quote, Iran.
Hey, man, real quick before they get to the quote, I really appreciate that. Yes, we do this Monday through Friday. We break down the world news, geopolitics, and American politics, and news, breaking news, all that stuff into a consolidated 1 hour. We don't sit here for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hours doing any of this. We do it for an hour, and we're in, we're out. We give you guys the information, we're out. So I very much appreciate the subscription. Let's go. As well as hit that like button, everybody. We've got well over 200 people in here, 242. Make sure you guys double tap that screen on the vertical side. I very much appreciate your laborious work. You don't have to like all the craziness around the world, but you guys can like it for me and what we do here. So thank you.
Has asked Iraqi militants, including Hezbollah, for assistance in quelling protests, officials say. So that is just coming in here from Lucas Tomlinson over at Fox News. All of this here as Iran's supreme leader reiterates that a crackdown on all of these demonstrations is coming. I do want to bring in Javad Ali, Associate Professor of Practice at the University of Michigan's Gerald R. Ford School of Public Policy.
Now, they're saying at least 200 dead, but that was before they've got an updated number of well into the 500s, like 540, 560, whatever the case is. Now, I really don't care about what this guy's going to super say, but let's go ahead and see if we have any other new images on this. We'll kind of scroll or zip through this. We're not going to listen to the whole thing, because we still have a lot of stories to get to, as well as different updates on Iran.
Have washed over Iran for almost the past decade, but this most recent reason is just seems to have a particular motivation to it. But they're in the decade before, there have been other motivations as well. But these protests also seem bigger.
Yeah, I mean, right now, honestly, Steve, at this point, we don't even really need to get involved. It looks like that it's going to take care of itself from an internal standpoint, an internal regime change through a revolution, essentially.
In scope, and they're going on. There doesn't seem to be any signs that they're going away anytime soon.
And what aspects of all of this maybe are misunderstood by folks out there? Because a lot of this information comes in bits and pieces. You start to see the video like what we were just showing moments ago there in several cities across Iran. You get
What's up, Dirty? Good morning.
Comments from President Trump and other officials. So what is maybe misunderstood about the situation?
Well, I think one of the things that your viewers need to consider is that these protests in Iran do seem much larger in scope and scale than we've seen in the past. The regime is using what I would argue is the same playbook it has used in the past to crack down on these protests based on the different motivations behind them. The use
guy got up there and is ripping down the flag. Damn.
Of the IRGC and the paramilitary force known as the Basiji.
That's in London.
As the sort of shock troops to suppress dissenters. We've heard the reports of the death of probably dozens of people around the country, cutting off access to the internet and restricting outside media, which you referenced at the beginning of the segment. The very aggressive language we've heard from the Supreme Leader, other IRGC.
You already saw Lucy. She's in the background. She was in the background when we started, homie. If you weren't paying attention, she's actually right here to the left of me right now.
Officials, the Speaker of the Parliament warning Israel and the United States that if there is more involvement or more support for these protesters, that Iran will retaliate. So these are all the factors that are swirling around now. But to me, it seems like Iran is in a much weaker position than it has been even in the past dealing with these protests. And again, maybe we're closer to a tipping point for the regime than we have been in the past. Now, that's very speculative, but looking at it from an outsider's perspective, things seem very, very difficult for Iran at the moment.
Talking about the comments that have been made by President Trump saying that essentially if these protesters continue to die, and at this point, we know that there are upwards of 200 deaths that have been reported, based on what
well over 500 now.
President Trump is saying, what is the realistic situation that could play out there in Iran with U.S. intervention?
So obviously I'm not inside government anymore. I haven't been for several years, but I have to imagine even right now there are several things going on. We've heard the statements from President Trump, which are very bold in their assertion that the U.S. may get involved with some kind of military action if the Iranian crackdown continues.
Yeah, Charles, regards to that guy with the flag that was up on the building. Yeah, that was in London, that particular thing.
And there's no sign that these crackdowns or the crackdown is abating. And there's other media reporting out there the past couple of days that suggests that the U.S. military has developed options for potential attacks inside Iran if President Trump were to give that order. Now, what those options look like, or what the options are the targets against the IRGC and the paramilitary force that I talked about, because they're the instrument of repression right now. Would they also try to hit Iran's ballistic missile and cruise and drone capabilities, because those are the weapons that Iran might choose to use in retaliation against any military action by the United States or Israel? Is there also some type of covert action campaign going on to put more anti-regime propaganda into the ether? And we've heard the statements encouraging people to continue protests. So these are all the things I have to imagine are being considered if they're not already being implemented as we speak.
You touched on the fact that we do have this internet blackout that's taking place over in Iran. And, you know, there's also the phone lines that have essentially been cut, which means that people cannot communicate with others, maybe within Iran or elsewhere. So does that appear to be having any sort of effect on the protests in general? Because it appears that despite that, they are still growing.
Yeah, it's so hard to know how to answer that question, Josh, from our perspective from the outside. But just based on the media reporting that's coming out over the past couple of weeks now, even with this heavy repression of the use of the internet and even phone connectivity inside Iran, clearly there's still an ability for people to deliver messages, to send.
Right, and even like the Starlink thing with Elon Musk, the numbers that are being reported were 85% of all signals like that, whatever, were blocked or jammed, whatever verbiage you want to use, but they weren't able to get it across 85% of Iran. But that's still, 15%? That still got a little some, and then their cell phones, stuff like that. But all right, we don't need to listen to this guy whine over the top of it. We can move on because we've got so much shit to get to. All right, so ICE protests, Minneapolis police chief talks arrests. Let's go ahead and bring this up. We'll go ahead and discuss it. And briefly, before we get into this, we got to get the money part over, bro. We got to get the money part.
All right, just get the money part done.
Give me money. Money me. Money now. Me a money needing a lot now.
Perfect.
Denied.
Let's get into it.
Protests continue in Minneapolis over the fatal shooting of a woman by an ICE agent in the city just days ago. Video has shown clashes between protesters and federal law enforcement outside of the Whipple Federal Building. Now, there's also been situations.
You know what's funny, Steve Easy, is Charles got a cat.
Like this one that happened on Friday night outside of the hotel where immigrations and customs enforcement agents were believed to be staying. The footage shows protesters inside the Renaissance Minneapolis Hotel chanting, quote, "No justice, no peace," and banging on a podium. Again, you see that right there on your screen. Another clip from inside the Canopy by Hilton Hotel shows those protesters blocked by security while attempting to push their way further inside. Then you have those protesters outside the depot in Minneapolis breaking outdoor heaters, and it looks like some windows damaged as well. All of this, of course, in the wake of Wednesday's shooting death of Renee Good, who the Department of Homeland Security describes as a, quote, domestic terrorist, calling her an immigration activist serving as a member of ICE Watch, a group that watches, tracks, and interferes with federal immigration enforcement. The FBI is conducting the investigation as Minneapolis city and federal officials, such as Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, clash over whether the shooting was justified. And since the shooting happened, there have been so many of those news conferences with Mayor Jacob Frey and Chief Brian O'Hara of the Minneapolis Police Department. Chief O'Hara joining us now to talk about what happened and the ongoing protests. Thank you so much, Chief, for taking the time to be here with us today.
This should be interesting.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. And first,
now, most of the time when we got analysts, people giving opinions, speculation, all that stuff, we kind of skip that around here. Once in a while, we'll go ahead and listen to these guests that are brought on because, well, this is the Minneapolis Police Department speaking right here. So definitely interesting here.
First off,
should be a good interview.
I want to ask you how you go about characterizing these different protests that are taking place across Minneapolis over the past several days.
Well, it's certainly been a challenge, and it's been very taxing for the men and women of the Minneapolis Police Department.
I got a question for this guy.
Why are you gay?
Just asking.
The police department remains significantly understaffed after losing hundreds of officers in the aftermath of the 2020 civil unrest. And so it's a challenge. All of our members have been recalled to duty. There are no days off right now, and they're working extended tours. That being said, they have managed incredibly well, just thousands upon thousands of people who have been protesting, the largest of which happened yesterday, which, there were many times that our officers were taunted and tested in cases for several hours, and they were able to de-escalate situations and perform remarkably well.
It's a lot of people.
So that being said, for the most part, the overwhelming majority of people who came into the city were here to exercise their First Amendment rights, and things went well. But there were.
Hey, I always say, listen, we absolutely have a right to protest in this country, but you don't have a right to, stop an operation or investigation from happening from federal or state office. It doesn't matter from authorities. When you start tagging up the place, when you start looting, when you start lighting shit on fire, when you start showing violence, that's what you don't have a right to.
Arrests that had to be made.
And that's what I wanted to talk about as well, because this is some of the video.
And you don't have a right, by the way, you do not have a right to block ICE agents. You don't have a right to do that.
That came out from Friday night as you had people that kind of showed up there at several hotels where they believe that maybe the ICE officers and agents.
Real quick, we got Mr. J.R. Bowling, Alabama's next senator for District 4. Let's fucking go. Great to see you in the chat, my man. Hopefully you're enjoying your Monday morning so far. Definitely know that we are.
Staying. Tell me a little bit about that and what the department has observed regarding outside agitators versus people who are exercising their First Amendment right.
Yes. Well, Friday night was not the largest, but it was certainly the worst of it. It began as many of the other protests around the metro here have been, which were these sort of noise protests that were happening at night outside of hotels, so hotels that people suspected may be providing rooms to federal law enforcement. But where across the line was they started to commit damage to one of the hotels in the city. There were some windows that were broken and some graffiti incidents that happened.
No, Bob, I watched 7 different fucking camera videos at this point, and it was obviously obvious that she was trying to block them. Way obvious. Have you not seen the video from the officer standpoint with his phone? Have you not seen that one yet?
Very quickly, the Minneapolis Police Department and our state troopers mobilized a force of over 200 police officers. They moved in, declared an unlawful assembly, gave multiple warnings before an arrest order was given, and ultimately they arrested 30 individuals.
What's up, Virgil? This is a Redneck Side Motorcycle Whips hat. Yes, that's what that is. Appreciate that.
Not peacefully protesting. That being said, I know for sure we believe there are people from outside that are coming in to agitate things. But what is remarkable is those 30 individuals, as well as the one person who was arrested yesterday for spraying graffiti in the city along our main corridor on the south side. They're all Minnesota residents.
What's up, Two-Wheel Jesus? Good morning.
What is essentially the Minneapolis Police Department there doing to make sure that people do stay safe when you have these outside agitators that are coming in?
Yeah, so that's what I was mentioning. We have canceled days off, recalled all personnel. We have all of our specialty
What's
units
good,
available.
Bits Quick?
We have members of the State Patrol on standby. We've called for mutual aid from surrounding communities. We are staffed up around the clock. and continuing to monitor social media and monitor events that are happening in other major cities around the country. That being said, our officers have had extensive training over the last 5 years in not only crowd control, but use of force and de-escalation strategies. And I just, I can't tell you how proud I am because the level of taunting and hate and vitriol that they've been subjected to, they have performed better than any other example I can think of.
And I want to pop this video up. I know you've been asked about.
She wasn't bothering them. She was literally blocking them. She's inserting herself in federal activities and an investigation. So yeah, that is pretty bothersome.
As far as the recently released video that does show the interaction there between the ICE officer and Renee Good, what stands out to you about that from a law enforcement perspective and based on your experience in law enforcement?
You know, the main thing, I think, of course, is an issue of tactics. Certainly it's concerning.
I didn't say that purely.
That the officer is kind of holding a camera in one hand while their handgun is out, holding the handgun only with the other hand. And also concern around sort of
Appreciate
being in
you,
the
Tommy.
pathway of a motor vehicle. Those are things that for many years, there's been a very strong emphasis, at least for city police and state troopers, officers who typically conduct motor vehicle stops and enforcement, to try and avoid placing yourselves in situations that might create unnecessarily a risk of serious bodily injury or death to law enforcement. So those are the main issues, obviously, that are a concern. And I think for many years in this country, policing has been trying to prevent situations from that occurring. That being said, nothing is ever 100% because law enforcement cannot control the actions entirely of other people that we are encountering.
What message do you have for
that? Okay, let's hear the message and then we'll move on.
those who are still planning to protest there in Minneapolis? And at the same time, what message do you want to get across to ICE?
Well, I think in terms of people that are protesting, we respect that. We are cops in the United States. We follow the Constitution. We understand that the First Amendment provides people the ability to peaceably assemble and protest and object to government activity, including the actions that we take as Minneapolis police officers. But that being said, there's a line that you cannot cross. You cannot break the law and you cannot threaten the lives of others. Same thing, I think similarly in some way to those who are conducting immigration enforcement. I pray that you will use sound tactics that do not unnecessarily create risk to yourselves or others in the community. I pray that you will conduct this enforcement constitutionally.
Now, this is funny. This is actually, I mean, it's really retarded, but this guy right here is chucking pieces of bologna, literal pieces of bologna at the fucking ICE agents here. Watch this guy. You see he's got a thing of bologna right here? It's not even the good bologna. It's that fucking sliced up bologna in the fucking markets in the grocery store. Yeah, this shit sucks. Anyways, he's flinging things of bologna at these guys.
Or others in the community. I pray that you will conduct this enforcement constitutionally and lawfully and professionally.
Guys are dumb.
Consistent with the best practices that we have in our profession today. I think one thing that's getting lost in all of this is immigration enforcement has been happening in Minnesota constantly for many years in different administrations.
What's up, Virgil?
I think that the main issue that people are seeing that is causing a problem is not that enforcement is happening, it's the manner in which and how some of this activity is being carried out.
And my last question before I let you go here, are there any maybe misunderstandings,
Oh
disinformation?
shit! We got Papa Penguin in the building. Shout out to my man. Always appreciate you. Great to see you in the chat. All right, we're gonna move on though. White House latest Venezuela, Cuba, Trump economic speech. All right, let's go ahead and bring this up, and we will quickly get to this. Now, before we do though, we need to embrace our fuck ups.
Don't beat yourself up over past mistakes. You are going to fuck up again in the future. Quite possibly in a most spectacular fashion. Why worry about yesterday's fuck-ups when you have tomorrow's fuck-ups to look forward to? You are a fuck-up, and fucking up is part of your growth process. Embrace the process.
Shit. All right, we're moving on. Here we go.
Welcome back into Live Now from Fox. We're taking a look at the biggest headlines coming out of Washington, D.C. this week, and there is, of course, no shortage of news there. So we want to bring in Associated Press reporter Will Weissert to talk more about our big political headlines that everybody is watching. Thanks for being here, Will.
Thanks for having me.
So let's start off with the international news following the capture of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. Today, President Trump issuing another warning to Cuba.
Yeah, real baloney, Steve Easy. Not the bullshit baloney, the sliced up bullshit. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the real slab, and then you smoke that shit for like hours and hours and hours. That's what I'm talking about.
And we're going to read this out, and then Will, I'll get kind of your take on this. So today, President Trump issued that next warning, saying that Cuba has long lived off of Venezuelan oil and money under Maduro's leadership, but he says not anymore. This is the post from...
No, that is a that's a 7-Eleven Indian. You know, it's a dot Indian.
President Trump on Truth Social, he said, Cuba lived for many years on large amounts of oil and money from Venezuela. In return, Cuba provided security services for the last two Venezuelan dictators, but not anymore. Most of these Cubans are dead from the last week's USA attack, and Venezuela doesn't need protection anymore from the thugs and extortionists who held them hostage for so many years. Venezuela now has the United States of America, the most powerful military in the world by far, to protect them, and to protect them, we will. There will be no more oil or money going to Cuba. Zero. I strongly suggest they make a deal before it's too late. Thank you for your attention to this matter. And Cuba's president also responding after President Trump put that out on Truth Social. He said, this is translated from X. They say they have no moral authority to point fingers at Cuba on anything, absolutely anything. Those who turn everything into a business, even human lives. Those who today hysterically drain their rage against our nation do so sick with fury over this people's sovereign decision to choose its political model. So that's a little bit of the back and forth between President Trump and Cuba today. So, Will, what kind of deal is President Trump urging here, and what can you tell us about these threats to Cuba following Maduro's capture?
That's the thing, that it's really not clear what kind of deal he's talking about. This is an escalation. Clearly, he's been talking about Cuba after what happened in Venezuela, for several days. He mentioned it pretty much every day last week, but he always said he didn't think military action would be necessary. He sort of felt like the government in Cuba that's been in power since the revolution in 1959 would sort of collapse on its own and didn't need any sort of military intervention or U.S. intervention. Today, I think he made a point once of saying like Cuba didn't have any oil and it was a different sort of situation than Venezuela, even though he also has said before that, that the island really depended on Venezuela for support. It got a lot of reduced price oil. It got a lot of things like doctors and social support from Venezuela. So it relied on Venezuela very heavily. He's correct there. Now that he's basically saying that like they better do something before it's too late without exactly saying what that is, that's clearly an escalation. It's hard to sort of know exactly what that will lead to. There are not a lot of sort of discussions going on back channel wise between Havana and Washington. These are not traditionally powers that sort of talk very much, and the Trump administration, has not enjoyed a close relationship going back to his.
Yeah, the difference is Kirk was not doing anything illegal. I mean,
first term with the Cubans. So, it's possible that there are sort of back channel things going on, and he's just signaling publicly something that they know is already happening. But there's been no symbol that that's happening so far.
Yes, that's correct. Murder would be classified or actually defined as an unjustified killing, correct?
In public, and he's really sort of ratcheting up the pressure on Cuba. The other point that I want to make that I think is interesting is he's also talked a lot about Iran, right? And one of the things he said several times this week was if there were killings during the protests that are going on, the widespread protests in Iran, the U.S. might consider taking action there. There have been killings, right? The numbers have gone up into the...
There we go. We've got the number, the best comment of the day right here. America only. Yes, sir. America first? Nah. America only. I concur, good sir.
More than 500 by our estimate. Some groups have been even higher. He has not talked publicly about Iran. Instead, he's sort of focused on Cuba. There have been some discussions that do some reporting saying that, the administration is keeping its options open in terms of, military action or at least escalating things with Iran. But he's not taking that tack publicly the way he is with Cuba.
I agree,
Papa
Penguin.
A lot of focus from the White House on these international...
Okay, so... Yes, we got enough there real quick. What we're going to do is we're going to move on because we're already at 54 minutes and we still got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fucking stories to get through. Holy shit. Wow. All right. So there was a breaking story yesterday in Los Angeles. A U-Haul truck drives into an Iranian demonstration in Los Angeles. So let's go ahead and bring this up. And it's a quick update. It's very quick. It's only a couple minutes.
Now, we want to take you to some breaking news out of Los Angeles. We have this from Fox News reporter Matt Seedorf.
And I saw this whole U-Haul truck when it happened yesterday. I watched the whole video, quote unquote, on social media. someone caught it on their phone and they put it on social media, and I was like, oh shit. Yeah, absolutely. But what's up, Crystal Kitten? Good morning to you. Great to see you in the chat. Happy Monday.
Breaking, a U-Haul truck drove into a pro-Iranian demonstration outside a federal building in Westwood. Los Angeles police are on the scene. The number of injuries is
yeah. No, I agree that TVT, when I say America only, people misconstrue my ideology on America only. They think, oh, you want to be an absolute isolationist. Everything possible, everything will only be from America and benefit Americans, fuck everyone else. No, I'm not really with that. I mean, in the interest of America. So if we're doing any type of dealings, because of course there's lots of things that the United States actually needs to import, right? We need trade. We need to do these certain things and negotiations around the world. I do agree to those aspects, but it has to benefit the American people. That's what it has to do. No more, hey, we're going to give money to, these people in Argentina because they need to have tranny fucking classes to teach kids about being, transvestites and shit. I don't know, man. Like, there's a whole there's that, not just that. There's a billion fucking things like that has been exposed over the course of time that is unreal. I mean, it has no benefit to America and Americans. None. Zero. Zip. Nada. That's why we need to get back to the foundation of, if we're going to make deals, we need to do it strategically and for the benefit of Americans.
Known. And this is some video from the scene there where a Free Iran protest was happening, and a live look at that protest right now. Still a large crowd gathered there. Again, we are hearing from Fox 11 Los Angeles reporter Matt Seedorf that a U-Haul truck drove into that crowd of pro-Iranian demonstrators outside of a federal building in Westwood. LAPD on the scene there, and we still don't know how many injuries are reported. Another look at that U-Haul truck on the scene there just a few moments ago. We got the shot overhead. Again, this U-Haul.
Now remember, this isn't Minneapolis anymore. This is Los Angeles. I mean, there's a lot of, look at the imaging real quick. We're at 59 seconds. But it's a lot of people on the street, man. That's a lot.
Again, this U-Haul truck is being reported. It drove into this pro-Iranian demonstration in Westwood, Los Angeles. We're going to continue to follow this news. We don't know how many people were injured. We're still following this. You can see LAPD vehicles on the scene in that U-Haul with some crime scene tape around it.
This guy, the driver of the U-Haul, he got arrested for this.
The scene just a few moments ago, and this is a live look at that demonstration. Is still happening right now in Los Angeles, calling for a free Iran after protests in Iran and also an internet shutdown now days in. We've heard President Trump threatening to intervene if Iran continues to kill protesters in the country. Those protesters are protesting against the economy, but also against the Islamic regime for the violence it has committed against its own citizens. Again, we're hearing that a U-Haul truck drove.
Real quick, we don't need her to reiterate that. We already heard it. And you guys are going to have to excuse me. I'm on day 8. Right? Yes, today is day 8 of being sick. So I'm hopped up on meds, trying not to cough my brains out, but I keep having to mute myself. That's just the way of the road. All right, we're going to get into the next story here. Anti-government protests continue across Iran. Now, this is our latest update on Iran. So let's go ahead and let's see. It was 4 hours ago.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you all for joining us here at Live Now from Fox on this Monday. It's January 12th. My name is Corella Hara. I'll be with you throughout the next several hours, guiding you through the day's top stories, also showcasing live events.
Yeah, Jimmy, he apparently had like 3 different things on the, signs or whatever on the U-Haul. And I think one of them was in Arabic or maybe not Arabic, but maybe Persian. I don't know, but
some live looks from around the world. We're going to get started with a developing story from over the weekend that we are continuing to track, and that is those protests that are continuing all over Iran.
I don't know what the Persian people speak. I forget what it's actually called, so you're going to have to excuse moi.
I want to take a look here at some of the video that we have from over the weekend. And it does come as earlier today, Iran also drew tens of thousands of pro-government demonstrators to the streets in a show of power after nationwide protests challenging the country's theocracy. Iranian state television showed images of those demonstrators.
What's up, OJ? Good morning. Great to see you in the chat. Hopefully you're enjoying your Monday morning.
of the Islamic Revolution Square in the capital, and it called the demonstration an, quote, Iranian uprising against American Zionist terrorism, without addressing the underlying anger in the country over the nation's ailing economy. That sparked the protest over 2 weeks ago. Meanwhile, President Trump says Iran has proposed negotiations after his threat to strike the Islamic Republic. President Trump said late on Sunday that his administration wasn't...
Venado, that was myself, me, myself, and I, and a firework. Yeah, that's what happened. Blew myself up. That's the way of the road. Shit.
Bruh.
Shit happens.
Talks to set up a...
I fucked around, and I found out. That logically is consistent.
Meeting with Tehran, but cautioned that he may have to act first as reports of increasing deaths and the government continues to arrest protesters. Joining us now to discuss this even further is Jonathan Sayed. He is the Iran Program Research Analyst at the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies. Jonathan, good to have you.
Hi, great to be with you.
All right, so let's just start with an overview of why protesters have been taking to the streets in Iran for the past couple of weeks in the first place.
So this protest movement has now entered its third week. And even though it started as demonstrations against the economic mismanagement, rampant corruption, it quickly transformed into an anti-regime movement. So even though the initial trigger was economic, the grievances are no longer only limited to economic reform or political reform. And at this point, it has really evolved beyond just a protest movement. This is the largest scale that we've ever seen. And this is the most continued protest movement consecutively entering its third week. So it is really more of a nationwide movement. Some people are calling it a revolution, given the scale. And we're talking about major cities, we're talking about rural towns, and of course the Islamic Republic in true repressive fashion has shut down the internet, electricity, and is opening fire on protesters with live rounds. And the chants are very clear. They want an end to the theocracy. The Iranians are anti-Islamist and they want to return to the Pahlavi era using the monarchy, at least as a...
I mean, these are, in all fairness, these are some wild demonstrations happening across Iran. And it's not just happening in one major city or anything like that. It's really happening. There is a lot of people that are upset.
Transitional phase to ensure that they can move forward with this Islamic regime.
Talk to us about the government that is in Iran right now, governing all of these people, and why at this moment in time is it appropriate for us to be seeing all of these protesters taking to the street? I mean, what exactly led up to it being right now, specifically?
2025 as a whole was a really turbulent year for Iranians. You had, of course, the 12-day war that the Islamic Republic cracked down on its own citizens first. There was environmental challenges throughout the years. And of course, 2025 marked the highest executions of Iranians by the Islamic Republic. So these were different grievances that were really compiling. But what really triggered this final wave was the fact that following the 12-day war, Iranians are no longer afraid of the Islamic Republic. That image was shattered by American and Israeli strikes, and Iran and the Islamic Republic's inability to really respond to these adversaries in their own perspective indicates the fact that they were never this great power that they boasted in the past. So one, you had that shattered image, that coupled with the fact that the average Iranian right now doesn't have the capability to put bread on the table. So economic situation is dire, human rights situation is dire, but more importantly, this is the Middle East's only anti-Islamist civic movement. And really, Washington has an opportunity right now to support these protesters to ensure that in the long term, Iran's future leaders are actually in line with democratic values, with secular...
I think we all understand that, hence what regime change we're witnessing in the moment. All right. So whether that comes from us or that comes internally from a revolution, we know what they are looking for. All right. DOJ opens investigation into Fed Chair Jerome Powell.
Bruh.
What is happening here? I actually don't know the story on this, so we're going to find out together.
We want to turn now, though, to some more news that we're
It's a
following very closely.
fairly quick update. It's only 3.5 minutes.
The DOJ is now subpoenaing the central bank, also threatening a criminal indictment. I want to put up this, a social media post from Reuters.
A criminal indictment.
Which says Fed Chair Jerome Powell said the Trump administration threatened to indict him over a congressional testimony he gave last summer on a Fed building project, calling it a, quote, pretext to gain more influence over the central bank and monetary policy.
Oh, shit.
Federal Reserve Chair Powell also issued a statement, which he posted on social media. I want to play it for you next.
Good evening. On Friday, the Department of Justice served the Federal Reserve with grand jury subpoenas, threatening a criminal indictment related to my testimony before the Senate Banking Committee last June. That testimony concerned, in part, a multi-year project to renovate historic Federal Reserve office buildings. I have deep respect for the rule of law and for accountability in our democracy. No one, certainly not the chair of the Federal Reserve, is above the law. But this unprecedented action should be seen in the broader context of the administration's threats and ongoing pressure. This new threat is not about my testimony last June or about the renovation of the Federal Reserve buildings. It is not about Congress's oversight role. The Fed, through testimony and other public disclosures, made every effort to keep Congress informed about the renovation project. Those are pretexts. The threat of criminal charges is a consequence of the Federal Reserve.
We haven't shown any real opinions from Live Now from Fox. Yes, it's put on by Fox, but there's not really opinions and opinionated things on here, really. And if there is any of those things, I skip through those fairly quickly, and if not even play them at all, because I'm the analyst here. Can you actually give me an argument though? Like, tell me what about this show that we have done that is biased in one way or the other? We're showing exactly what is happening. Well, I'm not telling you what to think or one way or the other. I'm just showing you what's happening. How can you be upset with that?
Setting interest rates based on our best assessment of what will serve the public, rather than following the preferences of the president. This is about whether the Fed will be able to continue to set interest rates based on evidence and economic conditions, or whether instead monetary policy will be directed by political pressure or intimidation. I have served at the Federal Reserve under 4 administrations, Republicans and Democrats alike. In every case, I have carried out my duties without political fear or favor, focused solely on our mandate of price stability and maximum employment. Public service sometimes requires standing firm in the face of threats. I will continue to do the job the Senate confirmed me to do, with integrity and a commitment to serving the American people. Thank you.
And that was the statement that we had from Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell concerning that indictment.
What's up, H-Town?
And the DOJ now coming after the central bank and also Powell for a testimony that.
What's up, AU? Good morning to you. Great to see you.
Now, Powell's term as chair ends in May, and the Trump administration officials.
I absolutely do not take my opinions and views from Fox. You're obviously very ignorant on who I am.
That he could name a potential replacement this month. President Trump has also sought to fire Fed Governor, Lisa Cook, in an unprecedented step, though she has sued to keep her job and courts have ruled she can remain in her seat while the case plays out. The Supreme Court will hear arguments in that case on January 21st. Powell has disputed details in his testimony, saying there's no new marble, there are no special elevators, and added that some of the controversial items are not in the current plan. So still, we are following this very closely here as it is breaking news. We also have this, a social media post courtesy of Fox News saying, breaking, the U.S. Attorney's Office for the District of Columbia has opened a criminal investigation into Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell, examining the $2.5 billion renovation of the Fed's Washington headquarters and whether Powell was truthful during congressional testimony about the project.
All right, so we're going to move on. We've got Atlanta protests grow after deadly Minneapolis ICE shooting. This is the title. It came out 2 hours ago, so this is one of the latest updates into regards to the Minneapolis ICE shooting. There's major protests that have been happening in whether they be Los Angeles, like you saw, New York City, Chicago. There's a lot of demonstrations. I believe there was one in like Austin, Texas, I believe, or one of them. Anyways. We're about to see what Atlanta is up to today.
I want to turn now to this, a social media post from our team at Fox 5 in Atlanta, in which they say that anti-ICE protests are being held in Atlanta and Gwinnett County following the fatal shooting of Renee Good, a Minneapolis mother, by a federal agent on last Wednesday. Joining us now to talk about those local protests is Fox 5's Mark Teichner, who has more on this story. Mark.
Yeah, good morning. We had a number of protests throughout the weekend, as you can imagine, here in the Atlanta metro area. Sunday alone, there were 4 of them, including one on the bridge where I'm standing right now. Sunday afternoon, protesters make noise and hold signs on Midtown Atlanta's 17th Street Bridge that can be seen by drivers on the highway below. They're upset over the Minnesota killing of Renee Nicole Good at the hands of an ICE agent, as well as the Trump administration's immigration enforcement and foreign policy.
I think the unrest we're seeing right now, it's swelling all over the United States. We see protests not just here in Atlanta. This movement is only growing.
Hours later, another large group of protesters marched in downtown Atlanta, going about a mile from Hurt Park on the Georgia State campus to the Atlanta ICE field office.
It's unbelievable what's happening today, and it needs to stop. And I'm encouraged so many people showed up today at the last moment.
Anti-ICE protests in both Marietta and Lawrenceville also drew dozens of people.
We need to take a stand. We need to stand up for
Dozens.
the principles this country was founded on.
Protesters hope Good's death, which Trump officials call an act of self-defense, brings awareness to what they believe is an out-of-control ICE enforcement policy that makes the country less safe.
This seems like a galvanizing point because it's so obvious because there's all this video of that this was a shooting of an unarmed person who was simply driving away.
The protesters say that they will continue their efforts until that ICE agent is criminally charged and they see a change in the Trump administration's immigration enforcement efforts. I do want to point out that so far, at least here in the Atlanta metro area, none of the protests have had any form of violence, nor have we seen any arrests. Reporting live from Atlanta, Georgia, I'm Mark Teichner for Live Now from Fox.
All right, Mark, thanks so much for your time as you cover those protests happening down there in Metro Atlanta.
Very
I do want to take
interesting.
us out to this live image that we have over downtown Atlanta here as I read some more of this reporting, because again, these protests not just seen in Minnesota, they are seen in cities all across the country. Now, in Atlanta specifically, another demonstration had taken place on 17th Street and that bridge where Mark was just reporting from. That
What's up, brother Hardwire? Good morning. Great to see you in the chat, and happy Monday.
protest consisted of a couple of dozen people lined up on the bridge while chanting and holding signs. It was organized by the Party for Socialism and Liberation Atlanta. That last protest took place outside of the ICE field office in downtown Atlanta, where protesters chanted using bullhorns, marched from Hurt Park on Georgia State's campus to the office. And protesters in Atlanta say they believe the video shows Good was just driving away. So that is really where we're having back and forth with this entire situation. Several videos from witnesses that were at that scene have come out, and still protesters taking to the streets over the last several days.
Interesting. All right. So we're going to our last one. We finally made it. We were 11 minutes over already, but it is what it is. Show must go on. Thousands of NYC nurses on strike today. Interesting development. Let's go ahead and see what is happening.
Turning our attention now to a story that we're going to continue to monitor all throughout this Monday, as thousands of union nurses are striking outside of New York City hospitals. Joining us live now is Jessica Formoso with our team over at Fox 5 in New York. And Jessica, that is quite a scene behind you.
Good morning. Yes, quite a scene. This crowd has been growing since 6 o'clock this morning. That is when these nurses officially went on strike. Let me step out of the way here so you can take a live look. Hundreds of nurses are outside Mount Sinai, East Harlem. This stretches from 101st Street all the way to 99th, both sides of the hospital. You can see the nurses holding up signs and chanting. At one point earlier this morning, they were even blocking the entrance, the main entrance to this hospital. You may recall that 3 years ago, nurses, some from this hospital as well, went on strike for 3 days. The question many have this morning is, how long will this strike last? The nurses officially went on strike at 6 this morning. They walked off the job and, as you can see, onto the picket line. According to the nurses union, this strike is the largest nurses strike in New York City history. We're talking about nearly 15,000.
Brother Provo, I very much appreciate you. Sorry I missed your live show this morning, but guess what? I watched your live stream this morning before I got on my show. So I know that you were like, man, I'm fucking ready for this ICE shit to be over. I need some interesting shit in the news cycle, man. I go, yeah, man, I feel that.
Nurses from 3 hospital systems, Mount Sinai, Montefiore, and New York Presbyterian, they say they were negotiating throughout the night to try to reach a deal, but clearly little progress was made at the bargaining table. The nurses' contract expired December 31st, and shortly after that.
So December 31st was the end of their contract, and they haven't been able to renegotiate a new contract.
The union voted to authorize the strike. Now, here's what the nurses are demanding: better pay, safe staffing levels, fully funded health benefits, and protection from workplace violence.
That sounds pretty fucking good. Decent demands, in my honest opinion. I mean, I do know that, from me being a medical recipient, okay, I have received a lot of medical treatment. And when I was in the hospital for 28 days, they were always lacking on nurses. Always. Like, you just couldn't, there were always a shortage. It was always a problem. So I feel bad for them because I have heard that the nurse lifestyle is actually very hardcore.
They are not the only ones out here.
So I
there
respect
are also other planned picket lines across the city at other hospitals, at other major hospitals. We actually spoke to the union president last night. Take a listen to what she had to say.
They are still refusing to address our most important issues: patient and nurse safety. Although we are willing to negotiate on salaries, they have failed to deliver meaningful counter proposal and are still threatening healthcare cuts for frontline nurses. Nurses are ready to bargain all day and night to try to avoid a strike.
What? What happened? What happened?
Yeah, they tried to avoid that strike, but clearly they are on strike this morning. Again, officially taking place at 6 o'clock. Governor Hochul had to step in. She issued an executive order to keep patient care going on. And you hear behind me, you see them? They are now marching in front of me here with signs as well. You can hear the noise they're making. And as I was saying, this gets bigger and bigger as the hours go by. Now, hospital management reached out to us. We reached out to them, and they sent us back a statement saying that their hospitals are open, that they're doing everything they can to support the patients. We know that both Mount Sinai and New York Presbyterian have brought outside nurses in to help with the overflow of patients. As you know, flu season is running rampant here in New York City and across the country. So,
you know, and thank God, knock on wood, so far I don't have any flu. I just have a really bad head cold. I mean, today's day 8, and hopefully I can get this knocked out. I'm starting to feel a little bit better today, a little bit. Yesterday, the day before, and the day before that was actually like I was like, fuck, man, I can't do shit. Like I got one ear that's completely plugged up, can't hear nothing. You know, yeah, it was messed up. Anyways, but I'm glad that I don't have the flu yet.
a strike like this in the middle of winter is dangerous. One nurse telling us earlier that his patient yesterday was telling him, I'm afraid that you are not going to be here tomorrow, that you will be outside and striking instead of being here. Who's going to take care of me? So you have, the management, you have the nurses, and in the middle, you have the patients. But the nurses tell me they will continue to be out here as long as it takes for them to get what they are demanding. They tell me that they just want a fair contract. The management saying that what they're asking for is reckless, just too much they cannot do. Hopefully they can find common ground.
Well, this is going to be a big deal. I mean, we're talking thousands and thousands of fucking nurses. These hospitals already can't withstand not having one nurse show up to the fucking job. Imagine all these these hospitals they're going to have to negotiate. I mean, yeah, this is brutal. They're going to have to negotiate. I see the pressure here.
This strike could be over very soon. But of course, we will continue to be out here and bring you the developments as this story continues to develop throughout the day.
And right as she continues the little ending here, I'm going to find someone to raid right now.
Back to you. All right, Jessica, and then before I let you go, because I know that you've been out there all morning, what does it look like right now, the strike? Have you seen more nurses step out there, or has it kind of been spread out? Are some of them leaving? Are they marching away?
No, so we actually have been seeing more and more showing up throughout this morning. It started with just, at 6 o'clock, I would say there was probably a dozen or 2 dozen nurses. By 6:30, there were a lot more. And now this morning in the 9 o'clock hour, this stretches from where I'm standing for about 2 blocks. And there's nurses on both sides of the street, not just here, but also across the street. And we saw busloads of nurses being let off here and joining the picket line. We have seen some of them go, but as some go, others come in. So it's a revolving door. And I think that this is what they want, right? These nurses want to be out here showing that they will remain out here no matter how long it takes.
Wow, real quick, we got Edge coming in with the $14. Let's go, bro. I very much appreciate that, kind sir. That's very kind of you. Thank you for that.
As long as they can get to the negotiating table and get what they are demanding for.
All right, Jessica Formoso live for us down there with her team at Fox 5 in New York. Thank you so much, Jessica, for providing this context. We've been taking this live image all morning. It is quite a scene, so you take care. We'll talk soon. Before we move away from that story, though, I do want to showcase just this one more time, the locations of some of those picket lines that are already starting and those strikes, so you could see them here. This was also provided to us.
That's actually a fairly decent question there, Hardwire. Real quick, here's the locations of the strike picket locations that they're showing that they're doing in New York, Bronx, blah, blah, blah. So anyways. All right, guys, ladies and gentlemen, I can't thank each and every single one of you guys enough. Obviously, I cannot do this shit without you guys. I know that sounds cliche, but I really am honored to be able to do this Monday through Friday. Being able to report the world news, geopolitics, American politics, breaking news, all of it, I'm able to do that and consolidate it within usually an hour. But today we're 20 minutes over. It is what it is. All right. we'll see you guys tomorrow morning for more of the World's Madness. Until then, God bless everyone, and make sure you guys stick around. We're going to be raiding our buddy Chatting with Stacks, so make sure you guys let him know we're coming through with the Mike Ball raid, and we'll see you guys very soon. Much love.
From the depths of darkness, a voice emerges, a host